So, hi guys, welcome to the MMA UK BJJ show for MMA UK News. Stoomboy, as always. So, joined tonight by a very special guest, Elly Shirkhan. So, we're going to hear a little bit about Ellie's kind of journey, how the last 6 years have been for her coming through Jiu-Jitsu. So, Ellie's I believe, a 3-tab purple belt under Gracie Barra. Ellie became the first, I believe, 3-tab purple belt instructor, female instructor for Gracie Barra, which is obviously a kind of massive thing. So obviously big respect for that. Going to hear obviously a little bit about Ellie's journey. The last 12 months, obviously, through Jiu-Jitsu, health and things like that has not been the best. So we'll obviously touch on that a little bit, and then touch on obviously some of our competition experience as well. So Ellie, it's an absolute honour to have you on.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm honored to be invited, really. I'm very, very honored. Thank you.
Thank you. Listen, thank you very much for coming on. I'd say it's when I put the post up, there was a lot of people kind of reached out and said they were excited about having you on. I mean, we did have a couple of one episode ago. We had Laura Depore on. Laura Depore came on with her partner Kieran Brohan. But you're the first female guest I've had on, single female guest that we've had on the show. So listen,
I'm being first at everything. So
so no, listen, it's an absolute honour for me to have you on. So yeah, I mean, how's everything with you then? I mean, obviously we know anybody that's got Ellie on Facebook will remember earlier in the year, Ellie unfortunately contracted coronavirus and went through a hell of a time. As I said, it was a horrible, I believe, 5 or 6 weeks for you. So, I mean, how's everything with you now?
Well, now I am almost like back to where, in terms of like, breathing is fine. The only thing that is still lingering on, which is really, really annoying, is the psychological side of it. I still have nightmares because of the trauma, because being in isolation for 3 weeks, like I can see why people go to jail and go into isolation, come out even crazier. Not that I say I'm crazy, but maybe later. But that is like still like, where I really thought that I'm going to die, and dying alone is nothing that I would even wish on my worst enemy, if I'm honest with you. And so I still have like, I suffer from PTSD from that. And PTSD, I don't know if anyone knows about it or if they've had it. Once the memories come back and you have flashbacks, you feel like you're there in that situation again. And obviously I have PTSD from like a year ago from other like things that happened to me. But so, those are the things that I'm working on. I don't have as much panic attacks anymore. About a month after the when I kind of recovered, I had so much anxiety just taking a step outside the house. And not for the fact that I would catch it. It was just like I wasn't sure if I'm gonna, because I've had it, do I still have it on me? Am I gonna like spread it to someone else? And I was living with the most unbelievable people ever. So Lottie, like she was helping me out so much in return in terms of that, and which she's like my angel on this earth. And my family, we love her, and her daughter Harriet and her husband Johnny, obviously. But it was not nice. It was very, very difficult.
Yeah. And then you were in the hospital. So how long were you in the hospital for?
See, that's the thing. I was rushed to the hospital once the paramedics came and they said, okay, your lungs are fine. And the doctor, when I went the second time, the doctor said, because I was an athlete, the lungs were fine. But the reason why the paramedics took me there was because before this whole thing, I had a resting heart rate of 51. When they were monitoring me, I was between 165 to 195 resting.
Wow. Yeah.
Which is like pretty much like having a heart attack. And so when they rushed me over there, they like, it was the most scary. It was just like a movie. Like, what is it, the movie called Dead Walking or something like that. It was just like everyone was wearing masks and stuff. And that's what I really thought, okay, this is me going, because my heartbeat was so high. I could barely, like, I said goodbyes basically to my family. But I
Yeah.
was never kept in the hospital. They told me, do you
Mhm.
want to stay here? Do you want medicine? And I said, to be honest with you, if I'm going to die, I want to go like this. I don't want any medicine. I want my own body to fight it, because
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
didn't know what the complications are going to be from the medicine. They didn't know anything. So I was just like, you know what? I have my faith. And if it's my time, I'm not going to fight it.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's basically, but I wasn't in the hospital for that, like only for
Yeah.
like 24 hours to keep me into, and they gave me like to keep the pulse down and stuff, heartbeat down. But
Yeah.
that was it. I didn't want any so-called coronavirus
Yeah.
remedies.
Yeah, and I know that when you were feeling okay, every maybe few days you would post a video just to kind of let people know how you were feeling and what kind of things you'd went through and what kind of things you were experiencing and so on. So, I mean, anybody that has you on Facebook would have seen these videos, and it was a scary time for anybody watching it because obviously, I mean, you yourself didn't know what was happening, and then obviously people watching it. But I mean, it kept a lot of people informed of what was happening because
Correct.
if you remember rightly at the very start there was a lot of people saying it wasn't real, and obviously seeing your videos, I mean, it was very much real.
Yeah, and that's actually one of the reasons why I did it, because the one I did, which I'm like, very emotional on it, was the day before I was rushed to the hospital.
Yeah.
And so it's like, yeah, I was good, and then went down straight away.
Mhm.
But the reason I did it was because I never thought I was going to get it.
Yeah.
I thought I trained 6 days a week, 3 hours every day minimum. So there's no way in hell. And I'm young. They always said like it's always old people or people
Yeah.
that have some complications already with their health.
Hmm.
So I never thought so. And once my flatmate came home and she was just like, oh, Ellie, my colleague has symptoms and she came to work. Let me know if there's anything that you feel. And 2 days later, bam, it hit me hard.
Yeah.
And I just, I felt like, I do have a, following. I have a family, a jiu-jitsu family, my own family, my friends there.
Hmm.
And if I, very rarely does a woman post a video that you're at your worst. But I'm just like, if I can get it, and if I can get someone to be just a little bit more careful,
Yeah.
then I'm happy.
Yeah, definitely, definitely. So, but obviously on the mend now. So obviously you're starting to get back to your old self again,
Yeah.
and obviously getting back to training. So, are you back at training already, or are you still kind of biding your time to get back?
Well, I am kind of training. I'm in the gym, so I'm
Mhm.
definitely trying to get my conditioning up and lose the weight I gained from not doing anything for like 6 months.
Yeah, yeah.
And but I'm training, but I'm kind of like training privately.
Mhm.
So I train with people that I know. I'm not really going to a gym. It's difficult to do that. I'm still hardcore Gracie Barra student,
Yeah,
and you know, it's for me. It's very very difficult to put another kimono on that isn't Gracie Barra.
yeah.
And my dream has always been to open my own gym that is
Mhm.
for females and kids, and I know it sounds sexist of me. Apologies, boys, but there's a lot more black belt male out there that you can go to, So for
Yeah,
me, it's that self defense. So right now, I'm just like I do train jujitsu every other day,
yeah, yeah.
but every day, like I train weights and to get the stamina of the muscles back again, because I lost all the muscles. They're all
Yeah,
left, but thank
yeah.
God for muscle memory.
Yes, definitely, definitely. And then you mentioned obviously Gracie Barra. Gracie Barra has a massive thing in your life. Obviously, again, anybody that's got Ellie on Facebook can see that Gracie Barra means a lot to her. So I mean, you started when I started was March 2014. So you started a few months after me,
Yeah,
June 2014. You were saying so.
correct.
So I mean, what was your kind of first thoughts then coming into jiu-jitsu? So what brought you in the doors?
Well, I would say about two things. In 2001, I was attacked myself by two guys that mugged me, and they beat the shit out of me and took my money and everything. Didn't get raped, just to make that clear. But it left a big impact on me. And unconsciously, I put on weight because I didn't want people to look at me because of the way I looked. So I put a lot of weight on. And in 2014, I had just moved to Dubai. So when I moved to Dubai, over there, you know, you rarely have any kind of like exercise unless you go to the gym. And I met someone who became then later my professor that I was like very intrigued, but they became like my kind of like my PT. So I was like paying him $1,000 a month, and it was like nutrition, Jiu-Jitsu, MMA. It was a Muay Thai, everything. And I loved it. Absolutely loved it. I was dying because I was huge, but it wasn't the normal going on the treadmill and just a cardio. It had to use your brain. And for me, it was just like every day, even till today, when I learn a new move, I'm just like, oh, this is like Christmas. And that's the aspect I loved, which was about the whole chess game. And wherever I got stuck, it wasn't that I was bad. It was just like, I just didn't know what the next step was. So, so that was basically what grabbed me into it, for sure.
And Gracie Barra, I mean, Gracie Barra, and again, Gracie Barra, people always slag Gracie Barra off, and again, the reason that I see people slagging them off is because Gracie Barra is the most successful jiu-jitsu school in the world. So obviously, if you're the biggest, then anybody underneath you, they're going to take shots at you, they're going to come after you and talk bad about you and things like that. So I mean, when I joined, I absolutely loved it. I mean, I got to travel the world. I met jiu-jitsu guys, GB guys who to this day still friends with. I mean, my tattoo, I don't know if you can see my tattoo here. So a good friend of mine in California, black belt in California, kept calling me Toro, which is obviously Portuguese for bull, because every time we rolled, I would come at him. We didn't care about what colour of belt.
Were you white belt then? So
no, not blue belt. So I was a blue belt. I'd only been a blue belt for, I think, around about 6 or 7 months. So, but when I went to California, I was like, I was surrounded by all these kind of people. I had obviously Philippe Delamonica. He was there, obviously the head of GB headquarters, and various other people. Kieran Gracie, and there was loads of people. So
wow, you've seen the ones I haven't seen yet.
Yeah, I mean GB. I mean California is beautiful. I mean where GB headquarters is absolutely beautiful place. The sun shines all the time. There's no clouds in the sky. It's warm, which is not very good for a Scottish person. So we hate hot weather. So, but I mean I loved it. I mean I went, and as I say, even to this day, I'm still a member of the Gracie Barra Brotherhood page. And what they do is, it's quite funny because when you come in and if you're not a GB guy, they kick you out of the page. So obviously when they asked, where's everybody from? I said, well, I'm from Marcus Nardini's in Glasgow. And they said, it's okay, Stuart, you're a GB guy. We still you're staying in the page. So yeah, I mean my journey, I said I had 3 fantastic years as a GB fighter. And I was able to, the things that I was able to do in jiu-jitsu was through Gracie Barra. The changes that I made in my life was because of Gracie Barra. And even now, what I'd left there about nearly 4 years ago, even to this day, I still call my coach Professor, which he always says, look, don't call me Professor, just call me Coach or call me Marcos or whatever. I still... when I go to other gyms, I still bow when I go onto the mats and things like that. I've kept my GB gi, so if I ever go to a GB gym, I will wear the GB gi out of respect. So, and that was taught to me through Gracie Barra. So, I mean, so what kind of things did it do for you when you were coming through then? What main things did it give you?
Gracie Barra for me, it's like, it's definitely like and jiu-jitsu in whole, I have to say that anyone that does jiu-jitsu, you just automatically feel like family, because not
Yeah.
many people do jiu-jitsu. And I love the message of Carlos Gracie Jr. that Gracie Barra should be for everyone. It should be available to everyone. And the fact that every single school, if they're following it correctly, is doing the same classes, it's the same warm-up, it is the same cool down. So
Yeah.
you feel like if you go on holiday or you go somewhere, you don't feel like you are missing out. And once you step into that mat, you are a Gracie Barra family.
Yeah.
Yes, you're right. There's a lot of people that will slag Gracie Barra. Oh, it's too expensive. Oh, it's like, they cost, but it's a business. And when it's a business, like the kimonos do last. And it is a uniform. It's like if I am going somewhere, I'm proud to wear my school's uniform. And if you are a Gracie Barra, then you want to like represent and you also know that once you have your like they took out you have to compete to get a new belt.
Yeah.
That's the old school ways where it made it more accessible for us normal people that have a full-time job that will go where it's the time you put on the mat that matters, not how many medals you won, how many belts you brought for you to earn it. And it encourages you and it has that the self-discipline and the team and everything is set up so that it encourages the student to come back again.
Yeah.
And that to me, that message, it's affected me, saved my life, it's made a huge impact on my life. So I want to, and that's one of the reasons why I haven't joined a gym yet, is because I need to join a Gracie Barra gym. There's so many that are out there and I'm so honored and grateful. But it's just like if I don't know, it's just something that I have to really think on, and if it doesn't work, I'll just have to start my own.
Yes, definitely. And then obviously throughout this call, we're going to get some people coming in and asking different questions and things like that. So, so the first one then is Katie Hunter. Katie Hunter's also works for MMA UK News. So she's saying, glad to hear Ellie wants to open a BJJ school that is women and kids friendly. Now, she just wanted to know, what are your thoughts on Faraz Zahabi? I don't know if you've seen this. Faraz Zahabi did an interview where he said he doesn't roll with women. He won't roll with women. And then he went on to make it worse by saying, well, if it was an ugly woman, then I'd make considerations. So it was a horrible interview. So
well, before we slag, is Firaz, which country is he from? Because I haven't actually seen this interview.
Yeah, so Faraz is a high-level jiu-jitsu guy. So let me just tell you, Faraz Zahabi. So Faraz Zahabi is the head coach of TriStar Gym. TriStar, I believe, is in Canada, Montreal, Quebec.
Originally, like, I don't know if this is correct or not, but is he Muslim, like as a, or is it has nothing to do with his religion?
I don't know. I don't want to say yes, he is a Muslim or not, because that's one thing I thought of was obviously being a Muslim man. I mean, there's things that they won't do, there's things that they will do. So obviously the religion could have played a part in it. Okay, but it was just some parts of the interview he went through, and he just made it worse by continuing to go on and on and on, rather than saying, well, for my religion, I won't roll with women out of respect to religion and things like that. That wasn't mentioned, so I couldn't say whether it was a Muslim or not.
So what was his reason? It was just because he wouldn't roll with a pretty one?
Well, I think somebody put a question to him, said, and he said something about an ugly woman. If it was an ugly woman, then it would be okay. But yeah, he won't roll with pretty women. So, which obviously jiu-jitsu community, I mean, you know what it's like. It took real offence to it, but it was split on both sides. I mean, some parts were saying, well, that's understandable. Other parts were saying, no, that's completely wrong, because at the end of the day, as we all know, jiu-jitsu is supposed to be for everyone. Okay, regardless of gender, race, religion. I mean, once you come in the jiu-jitsu doors, everything gets left outside. While you're on them mats, it's just me and you. So,
well, yes, that's how it should be. That's
Mm-hmm.
the concept. That's the motto. But it isn't like I have, especially while I was in Dubai, I was only training with men, and it did happen where the man would, you know, get excited. It was the most horrible feeling for me,
Yeah.
and for the guy. We never saw him again.
Mm-hmm.
It's as simple as that. And I prefer to like wherever which gym I go to, or when it was my gym I was training, I had particular guys I would train with
Mm-hmm.
because I knew that they didn't have any ego issues.
Yeah.
B, I knew they'd be respectful.
Mm-hmm.
C, I knew they wouldn't treat me like I'm a fragile glass that they're gonna break me. So they
Yeah.
would give me a hard time, but they wouldn't use their full-on strength because come on.
Mm.
I would say like unless you are Tayane, like it's yes, probably people are gonna like really disagree with me here, but for us women, a man is always gonna be stronger. I don't
Yeah.
care. A man's hands are heavier. A man's supposed to be, but what we have that I think women are far more superior is that the techniques we get it faster,
Mm-hmm.
and it's like waiting. But very few women last in gyms when they are mixed with men in the beginning. And I think if it's a personal choice, I don't think anyone should be upset that Firas doesn't want to like spar or train with women. I
Mm-hmm.
think we should respect him for that because that means that he knows himself. And if that, you know, the last thing you want is to train with him and he gets like excited, and then you're like, well, I told you so. So I
Well,
don't think we
Katie's
should
just came
upset
in.
anyone.
Yeah, I mean, Katie's just came in as well, saying it in the interview. He said because he is married and pretty women are too tempting. That was his reason.
Well, again, I would say, based on my personal and private life, that's quite good of him. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, I don't want to go into detail and stuff, but if he knows himself that well, I'm sure
Yeah.
there are other people out there that can train and they can control themselves and they're not like that.
Yes.
And, you know, so, I mean, for me, respect to him. If he says that, that means he doesn't want to put himself in temptation.
Yeah.
Whereas I know fully that it can happen and it did happen. So,
Yes. Yes.
so I totally understand it. I mean, I have full respect for this guy.
And then Katie's saying for her, I mean, for Katie training jiu-jitsu, she said she would have no training partners if all men felt that way.
But see, all men aren't like that. I have
Mm-hmm.
had like training partners that have been the best, and they've
Mm.
been male, and they've given me a hard time. They have helped me to achieve what I want in my competition and my. So not everyone is like that, but we can
Yeah.
say when someone says, "I don't want to," why should we have a go at him? I mean,
Yeah.
that just shows he loves women,
Mm-hmm.
and he can control it. Why should we be angry at that? If I turn around and say, I don't want to train with any men, would people look at me differently, or they'd be like, well, yeah, it's understandable. So if I
Yeah.
want equality, it should be the same for him.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Definitely. Definitely. And then Henrik saying maybe he can't handle his own feelings. So
exactly.
yeah, so possibly that as well. So that's it.
Yeah.
It was a big over the last kind of week or so. It's been a big story, Jiu-Jitsu underground and things like that. So so yeah, for us, yeah, I mean people took it the right way, some took it the wrong way. So and
I
then
respect him.
yeah, Kimberly Gibson. Kimberly Gibson's also a GB. I think Kimberly's a blue belt now, I'm sure. She'll probably correct me if I'm wrong. So Kimberly trains under Darren Clark at Gracie
Oh,
Barra Fife. Okay,
yes.
so
Yes, he's
um,
awesome. They have a beautiful gym. Oh,
yes, so Kimberly was also one of the people that when I mentioned about having you on, she was excited about it. So
oh.
so Kimberly's saying then, so who is your favourite female BJJ grappler at the moment?
Uh, I have to say, I have Professor Joanna that is a black belt from Roger Gracie. She's competed, so she's a world champion. She is like fighting so hard for like female self-defense and
Yeah.
you know, when anyone asks me, oh Ellie, you know, can I train with you, I'm like, listen, you guys need to go to her. And then I also have there's this Irish girl. I am really bad with names because I'm dyslexic. Fiona.
Fionn Davies, yeah.
She is just a beauty. It's like art.
Yeah.
Like when I watched IBJJF in Lisbon, and it was amazing. Like it was pure. I can't describe it. Apart from that, it was so beautiful that the way she was just and she looked feminine. She was beautiful. She was still a girl, and I loved it. But I do also really, really, really admire Tayana.
Yeah.
Tayana for being in, like, you know, so like bigger size, showing that damn size really doesn't matter.
Yeah.
That's one thing that always going to be like, oh, the skinnier you are, the better you're going to be. Oh, I don't know if I can say that, but
listen, you say what you want. You say what you want. It's fine.
But yeah, and I've met her a couple of times. So you know, for me, I never forget. We were in the gym, and Tayana, she was there at a seminar. I organized it. She's like, and we were about like 20 people. She sparred and kicked everyone's ass one by one. And we were like in awe. I was just like,
brilliant.
And all the guys that were like really rough, I'm like, oh, hold on them. Oh, she was brilliant.
Nice. So, and then Kimberly, I knew she would come in and kind of correct me. So she's saying she's not a blue belt yet, but she's getting there.
Will be.
Yeah, listen, Kimberly will get there. Kimberly was actually, I refereed a match at Kimberly's, and Kimberly's quite small, very, very small, very petite. So, and she came in and she was fighting her opponent, and she went at her opponent, and she was almost like the Duracell bunny. She just kept going and going and going, and then she was winning, and then I think she got caught in an armbar, or a move had happened and it caught her arm and nearly broke her arm. So she had to stop. But I mean, she came out. Anybody that steps on the mat, male or female, obviously has got a lot of respect from me. So I mean, we especially in competitions, I mean, we all go out and do competitions. So we don't get money for it. We don't get anything other than that small medal. But yeah, I mean, anybody that competes, absolutely brilliant. So Kimberly,
I totally agree with you. Totally agree. There's actually very few people who will have the guts to go and compete.
Yes.
So for me, like, I remember the first time I competed was like, I think I had done 6 months training as a white belt. And it wasn't like it was more like, oh, I want to lose weight. I was training. It wasn't like, but I was just like, you know what? I've always been like a tomboy. So I was always in a lot of sports. I played softball, basketball. And so I'm quite competitive, and I'm in sales. So, you know, if you're not competitive, you shouldn't do sales.
Definitely,
So I did it, and I had to wait for the 6 hours to do the open weight. And I fought 2 girls that were so tiny that I didn't even know how to open their guard. It was embarrassing. I was so tall. I was so much bigger than them. But I've always inside of me had that where I can't cause harm to anyone. I know jiu-jitsu, if they don't want to tap. I've lost many goals. But I'm like, I'm almost 40. Like, you know, I don't want that goal that bad, you know?
Yeah.
But I remember after that, I was so psyched. I was just like, and everyone thought like, okay, she lost to 2 small girls. And they were like, I think they had like 3 or 4 stripes, or maybe not even that.
Yeah.
I'm trying to make myself sound better. But they, like, I had so much respect for them. And I was just like, that is just brilliant. That's when it clicked for me.
Yeah.
That look, I am that bigger, heavier, stronger, whatever. And they could just handle me like I was a piece of paper. Like, so for me, and I find smaller girls more dangerous because they're quicker, they're nimble, they're fast, they're flexible than someone that is like my size, because then, you know, it's a lot more easier. But I definitely feel like they're like the Duracell bunny, where they're like everywhere, and you're like, I need to defend everything.
Yeah. Well, that's Kimberly. Kimberly, as I said, very, very small, but yeah, I mean, she came out ready to kill anybody that came on the
She
mat
sounds
in
like a
front of her.
badass.
So
I love it.
yeah, Kimberly definitely is. So, and then Kimberly's also saying Fionn Davies is her girl now. Kimberly did a seminar with Fionn Davies. I think it was last year. So obviously they got I think Kimberly rolled with Fionn as well. So they spent a bit of time together. So obviously a good relationship between Kimberly and Fionn. And then Kimberly again just saying, look, thanks Ellie for your answer. And obviously, thanks Stoomboy as well. So she's got to thank me as well. So, and then Katie Hunter, what would you say the best fitting gis are for girls? I mean, you only wear one gi. Let's be honest. You only wear one gi, which is a Gracie Barra gi. So.
Yes, and boy, did I ask for a pinky for so long, and then it came, and then like I was just like, should I not? I definitely, I love the Gracie Barra ones because they're so light.
Yeah,
and you have the, you know, the used to be the Storm, and you have obviously different category and qualities.
Yeah,
but the ones that are like really heavy and they're like, you know, you could definitely like grapple in them. I found it that it starts smelling after a while. Like, yes, it might be cheap, but it like loses, and the smell, oh my God, I think I was like a dog in a previous lifetime or something. My nose is like, I can't handle, like I've had partners where their gi smell, and I'm like, I'm sorry.
Yeah,
I don't want a ringworm on my face. I don't want that to smell on my gi because it doesn't go away. So for me, I really, really like their competition one for Gracie Barra because it's so light. You feel like you're not wearing anything.
Yeah.
And I definitely think Gracie Barra needs to improve their line for women, like even like the rash guards. Like, I'm a girly girl. Yes, I might be a badass purple belt 3 stripes, but I'm still like, I love my nails, I love my hair and stuff. But I found it like, you know, for the pink kimono to come out, it took such a long time. And they were saying, oh, there's not many that girls. I'm like, well, maybe because we don't like your kimonos, you know?
Yeah.
So, but definitely the competition one from Gracie Barra is my all-time favorite.
Yeah. What did you prefer, Storm or Adidas? I like the Storm one. I like the Storm one. The Storm one was a good fit. So I enjoyed that one. Adidas one, it looked nice. It looked fantastic. But I don't think it was the same kind of fitting as the Storm one I had. So
in that sense. Well, because I've always had the female line. I like the Storm. Storm was good, but so was Adidas. I actually never got an Adidas one.
Yeah.
But so I wouldn't really know how it felt. But so I would say Storm. But and I didn't like, you know, Gracie Barra, I'm really sorry, but I didn't like the Adidas thing on it. It's Gracie Barra, you know. It's good that they are making it, but we don't really need to shout about it. So I would say the Storm ones, in my opinion.
Definitely.
Victor, I'm really sorry.
So, and then obviously Gracie Barra then. So you coming up through Gracie Barra. So how long was it before you got your first belt, your blue belt?
Oh, wow. That took a long time. I think it took me, it's on my Facebook and stuff where I have it definitely took me 2 years, I would say.
Yeah.
But my getting there is very different to like nowadays with Gracie Barra. Like, you would become like a blue belt, I would say, if you are minimum twice a week training and you're on the mat. I think I would say year, maximum year and a half. So but with mine was, if I was to, I've always been like the one have to ask things, question things, and there was times I would get kicked out of class because as a female, now when I coach, I do give the girls that extra detail. and you know, the person that was training me like didn't have the best English vocabulary.
Yep.
So it was just like, but why? And that
Yep.
but why was very annoying for that professor. So I was definitely kicked out many times. But I was still stubborn. I would still come back. I'm like, I'm not giving up. I'm gonna do
Yeah.
this.
Yeah. And then getting the blue belt then, so obviously the first step, what was the feeling like when you got your blue belt?
Oh my God. I do not want to be a bad blue belt. I'm not ready for it. I don't think, because for me, during that time while I was a white belt and blue belt when I was in Dubai, I didn't have a lot of female partners. So I was very good in defending, extremely well. But I never had the opportunity to attack because it was always, the strengths would come into it. And I thought it's supposed to be like that, you know, that it's, you know, you just take it on the chin and you take it until my professor had a sparring session in Abu Dhabi with a female black belt. And this was like obviously after like I became a blue belt, and she stopped him and said, "Whoa, I don't think you've trained with women before." And he's just like, "Well, what do you mean? You're a black belt, you female. Should it be any difference?" And this is where it comes.
Yeah.
And she said, "Yes, there is a huge difference. When it comes to women, men don't use their elbows around this area. They don't use their knee in the belly like they would do with the men. They don't go for the kill when it comes to the submissions and stuff. You have it, you let it go, you roll. And you basically work on points and work on your technique with the girl." So, and he was like baffled, like, you know, that's something that, and then the penny dropped for him that when I kept saying like, listen, it doesn't work for women. This, if I wasn't in the position that I was, I would have left ages ago. This is not female friendly, where all I feel is I'm just defending. But for me, I'm like, you tell me I can't do it, I'm going to prove you wrong. So, and that was one of the reasons. And I was losing weight, a lot of weight in those 2 years. Like I lost 45 kilos. I went from size 22 to like when I was putting on jeans, I was size 10. I was like, what?
Nice. Yeah. Yeah.
And it was just with jiu-jitsu and like fine tuning a little bit on my diet. But so it was, you know, so that's what for me it was just like, am I ready to be a blue belt? And you feel so much responsibility because you have to look good for yourself. Secondly, that you're representing that gym and that professor, and you don't want them to think, oh, she only got it because, you know, she got it because of that, you know. So I definitely felt like a lot of pressure. And it was only when I have Zer Radiola that came for a seminar, and where he then started to train us, and we had like a seminar, and it was a competition seminar where he was just like, you got it in you, and I was like, oh, thank you.
Yeah. Nah, Ziradio was an absolute fantastic, a proper gentleman as well. So, as I said, any dealings I've ever had with Z has been absolutely brilliant. So, obviously, GB guy as well, left for his own reasons. So, kind of all the best to him and his future endeavours. So, and then, so you've got your blue belt. And I mean, I remember when I got my blue belt, was a kind of similar story. I mean, I went in to lose a bit of weight. I went in and within 6 months, I dropped 30 kilos. And then that's when I started saying, well, look, I want to start competing. I think I competed as a white belt once, and then about a month later, I got my blue belt. So, and once I started competing, I got that bug, that thing that you get where I'm like, well, I want to do this again and again and again. So, I mean, your first competition then. So, when did your first competition come for you?
What, as a blue belt?
Blue or white? So what was the first?
I was a white belt after 6 months. That's the one where I lost to the to the skinny, like tiny girl.
Right.
But then I like, and that's what kind of like kicked me into gear. And I think that's one of the reasons why it's good to compete, which is like in the beginning, because I competed as a blue belt as well.
Yeah.
But as a white belt, it was just more for fun. But I kind of needed a reason to to train as much as I was, because sometimes I was training twice a day.
Yeah.
And, you know, it was like 2-3 hours, just like jiu-jitsu.
Mhm.
So I needed to have a reason, a goal, that this is why I'm working so hard, and it's because of this competition. And
Yeah.
then you have like a resting period, and then you go for it. So, but I didn't really like start competing until like I came back to London, which
Mhm.
was in 2016, and I was a blue belt.
Yeah.
And I definitely had that bug, and I really wanted to compete in European Championship in Lisbon. So for me, I went to a lot of competitions, and I was always the oldest, the heaviest. Like I had 18-year-olds, and I think the oldest was like 23, and they were badasses.
Mhm.
And every time I would go, I know it's a cliche, you don't lose in jiu-jitsu, you either win or you learn something.
Yeah.
Now I totally agree, because every time I had a competition, I found out what my weakness was.
Mhm. Mhm.
So then I would go back into the gym and work on that weakness.
Yeah.
That, you know, so that was like a very good thing. Secondly, like I said before, I could have had competitions where I would have won, but I wasn't literally a ruthless killer.
Mhm. Mhm.
I was still like, because they were old enough to be my kids, you know. I didn't want to hurt them. I didn't want that. Like, so for me, it was like just a thrill, and then I think the better I got, I started to realize that the ones I'm losing to are black belt judo fighters.
Mhm. Mhm.
And like for being tall, I have very tiny feet. It's like size 5. And
Yeah.
they're very, very weak. So my professor would be like, don't pull guard. Just whatever you do, don't pull guard.
Yeah.
So in every competition, I never pull guard, and I hate takedowns. And because I already have like an injured shoulder,
Mhm.
I have a torn ACL in my shoulder. So the bone
Mhm.
is like sticking out constantly.
Yeah.
And so in the European Championship, the person that won it, like, definitely should have won it, but she was a black belt, um, 4th dan in judo, and she was a like coach and everything. I
Yeah.
remember when she took me down, it was an awesome feeling. I felt like a feather. I'm like, wee! So it was really good. And but that's when I got the silver. But then after that, I was just like, no. There's been so many times I fought with judo fighters, and I'm always going to lose because they do the takedown. They take the wind out of my lungs. So I started to pull guard, and
Yeah.
that's when it started to get more interesting.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I would definitely say try both. Now I'm
Yeah.
more of a pull guard. I do love passing guard as well, but I definitely, if I know it's a judo fighter, no way in hell. Like,
Yeah.
I'll pull
Yeah.
guard on you.
Yeah. Definitely. Judo fighters are always like I enjoy going in and competing because I'm about 5'4". Okay, so
Yeah.
when I go in, everybody I fight is 6 feet plus, every single person. And the biggest problem they have is takedowns. So I go in, and my coach always says to me, like, Stuart, let them keep trying to take you down over and over and over again.
They
And
get
then
tired.
once they get tired, take them down, which always happened. And I think, I mean, in what 20 plus fights, I'd only been taken down like 2 or 3 times,
Oh,
and it
I'm
was by
jealous.
judo black belts. But it was good. I mean, I was going in, and I would put my leg out so that they would then jump for the leg, and then as soon as they did,
Ah,
I'd sprawl on top of them, and then that would be me. So I always loved it. But then when I went to the Euros, the person I came up against was a world champion sambo guy, right? Which I'd never fought a sambo guy before. And for the whole fight, I was like, he was trying to take me down, and it wasn't happening. And then he
well
then
done.
pulled, yeah, well, he then pulled guard.
Wow.
And as soon as he pulled guard, he dropped his right leg to the ground, which then left his whole side open for me to then come around and pass. And there was only about 20 seconds left. I remember my coach shouting, Stuart, there's 20 seconds left. Don't do anything stupid because you're winning the fight. You're winning it. So, and then obviously I seen as soon as the guy's leg went down, I went to pass his guard. And as soon as I did, he came up behind me and belly to back suplexed me and got the points for the takedown. And I'm like, no. And that was one fight away from a medal at the Euros. So, but it was my own fault. And I remember coming off and looking at my coach, and my coach looking at me like, just shaking his head like, I told you, don't do anything stupid. And I'm like, so.
But it's very difficult to do everything that they say when you're in that, like on that mat. You're gassing out. You're like, your arms feel like I have no more power. And I think that's why sparring at the gyms is so important. And not just like the 2-3, but like literally going at it as if it's a competition. But choose your partners wisely, because it is so important that you can alternate. Like, you just attack, I'll defend. Have that communication with your training partners, your own family, that you don't hurt each other. You give each other a hard time. You make sure that they're competition ready. But also, more importantly, in my opinion, I mean, competitions, they're great and we can put them up on the, but it's that self-defense. If I'm always going to go light on somebody, that, you know, it needs to sit in that bone marrow, that in your spine, that if someone attacks you, and I think that's something that isn't put enough emphasis on. And it does, like with Gracie Barra, when there's female coaches, I feel like they kind of like do it. But you know, I still think there are like definitely improvements in that can be done. Because you have, like, Roger Gracie has so many girls there. It's amazing, absolutely amazing. And they are like female coaches, different ones, and they have seminars. And then there we have the professor Duran. She's in Nottingham, Gracie Barra, Nottingham. She is Professor Mel. I can't believe I just forget that. She's like one of my sorry, Mel. And so she's like amazing, and she sorts out for all the Gracie Barra girls to go there. But any girl, she doesn't like exclude any of other ones. And also Gracie Barra Bath, Professor Salvo, and his wife is just amazing. Like, I would recommend any girl to go there, because they have like amazing, and it's also new black belt there as well. It will come back to me, but ask me another question.
So obviously you're competing then. So I mean, do you enjoy competing? Because I know a lot of people, when they go out and compete, a lot of people get so nervous, or they don't enjoy it. They just feel like they do it because it's like, as you mentioned, old school Gracie Barra. You had to do it to improve, to get a new belt. So a lot of people will only compete because they may be getting a new belt or something like that. So I mean, for you, I mean, is it something you enjoy?
I enjoyed it in the beginning. Then it became way too serious for myself and my professor, like pushing me. And it was a lot of cutting weight, because there's not many female competitors out there. And in IBJJF or any other competition, the super heavyweight starts either from 72 kilos, and IBJJF is 79. And I was, you know, for me, like when I put on I had lost, but I had, like, you know, obviously muscles. I was like between 82 and 84. But then I was always competing with girls that were about 110, 120. Like the girls I fought in IBJJF were a lot bigger than me. So for that reason, I was just like, either I cut weight, and I'm 5'10", so I was like pretty much like skin and bones. And I had no strength. And I remember losing a fight by a mistake, and it was just so easy for her to, because I had cut weight so much. So for me, that I was just like, I remember like it was the first time I was a very bad loser, not in front of her, but I just didn't want to go on the podium. I was really pissed off with my professor. I just went back to the hotel room, and I was just like, I will never do that again. Like the torture I put myself through. And for my first fight to lose like that, no, I'd rather be my normal size, have my strength, and compete. And I think that's one thing that the jiu-jitsu world need to change, because we are a lot more girls. They cannot give us a bullshit argument that there's not enough girls competing. There is.
Yeah.
They have to have like more categories. So it became like, I don't want to compete. I just want to coach and I want to make champions.
Yeah.
Until I then decided that, you know what, I'm still a competitor. I'm going to compete, but I didn't see it as a competition. I just took it as I'm going to go spar.
Yeah.
And that's when I had the most fun. I didn't care if I lost or won. I just wanted to test myself with someone my level, someone my weight, someone, well, it was never my age, but like, I also proved to myself that my age had no bearing on it. So then I had fun. Then it was, you know, I saw the true jiu-jitsu, and it was just like with the competition side of it. And I just absolutely loved it. So
nice one. And then we've got a question from Katie Jane Holland Ruffled. Katie is a white belt under, I believe, Professor Robert Almeida or Roberto Almeida down south, down in England. So, so Katie's question is, if you like fighting from the guard, what's your favourite submission? Katie is a 2-stripe white belt, so she's been doing it for
what? Katie.
Yeah, so Katie, yeah, I mean, her husband or her partner is one of my best friends, my brother. We used to train together, Andy. So Andy moved from Scotland, moved down to England, obviously to be with Katie. So, and he got Katie into jiu-jitsu. Andy's a purple belt. So Andy got Katie into jiu-jitsu, and I believe the family as well. So,
well,
so yeah.
I have full respect for Andy, because I think every man that does jiu-jitsu should bring their girlfriend, sister, mom, wife into jiu-jitsu.
Yeah.
I think they owe it to them. But okay, so I have quite a few submissions, and there's one, like I definitely like the triangle, because I have long legs and kind of like thick thighs, so when I squeeze, it squeezes. And if that doesn't work, then I go from the triangle to the armbar.
Yeah.
But I also do love my lapel submissions. So I don't really, it's so difficult, and I don't remember the name, but it's one of the ones that I actually used in the European Championship competition. I tapped the girl out, and I never tapped anyone out. But I don't know if this makes sense. I mean, she's in my guard. I took the right lapel up, give it to the other hand behind her neck, grab it from this side.
Yeah.
The other side, and then I do a hip scape. And just by that hip scape, you just pull, and it just literally goes, it hurts. But that's one of my absolute favorites, because working with lapels for us girls, I think it's a lot more kinder on our like fingers and stuff.
Yeah.
So I've never done like the spider guard, like De La Hiva, none of those. Like I like to keep it, or I will sweep and then I go into a katakatame, which I love.
Yeah, nice. So Katie, hopefully you'll be able to choke Andy out tonight with that lapel choke. So, so
message me privately and I'll show you.
so listen, I'll see the video. I mean, I'm pretty sure Katie will record that and send it to me if she did it to Andy tonight. So that's.
I would love that.
So, and then obviously you the Gracie Barra. So you got your purple belt, I believe, around about 2 years ago, 2018. So yeah, you've been.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, well, I was supposed to. Last year, I was supposed to. If things would have gone the way it's supposed to, I should have been a brown belt by now, but I kind of got punished and held back. Which I don't mind, to be honest with you. The belt is, I'd rather be a badass purple belt than a crap brown belt.
Yeah.
It doesn't take away any of the time I've been on the mat. But yes, I was told a lot, like, you know, once you leave the gym, there's no way in hell you will continue or be a black belt. And I'll make sure that you don't get to the black belt. And that just makes me even more fired and be like, oh yeah, we'll do it, but on my own time and the
Yeah.
right way.
Yeah. And
But
then
yeah,
obviously, so your purple belt. I mean, obviously, blue belt was a big thing, but then getting purple belt, how did that? What was the feeling when you got that belt? Because
the
purple
purple.
belt is more. The way I look at it is obviously your blue belt is a validation of everything you've done as a white belt. So obviously learning your techniques and stuff like that. Purple belt is a validation of the blue belt, and so on
Right.
and so on. So I mean, how was the feeling for you?
It was the best because we had our master Marisa Hobby there, and whenever we have him to like the grading, it was a huge shock. Like,
Mhm.
I did not expect it, and I
Yeah,
was the one that was planning the seminar, so I was the one that was making sure everyone had their belts, their
yeah,
certificates. So it was a huge, huge, huge shock. Didn't
mhm,
expect it. Didn't feel like I deserved it.
mhm.
And with every belt you get, but it is my favorite color. So I'm like, finally, a cute belt.
Yeah,
So the purple, like I love to hold on to it forever.
yeah, yeah.
But yeah, it was. I definitely felt, but because I had more competitions, and it was only as a purple belt, what I started to defend, see 2, 3 moves ahead, set up traps, and actually attack.
Yeah,
And I
yeah,
became a lot more like, okay, I'm going to set a trap. I'm not going to waste my energy anymore.
mhm,
All that, like, I call it that white fury or like that, oh, I'm the underdog. It was all like, let me wait, let me set traps. And if
yeah,
it ended, so I was a lot more calmer. Like I was playing with everyone
yeah.
and I was coaching then as well, which is the biggest joy of my life. That's what I burn for.
Mhm, mhm. Definitely. And then obviously being Gracie Barra, so you obviously a certified instructor,
Yeah,
and as the first female Iranian 3-tab purple belt instructor. So, I mean,
correct.
and again, how was that for you? Because obviously we kind of spoke earlier. I mean, obviously coming from Iran, obviously it's quite restricted for females in regards to some of the things or some of the trainings that females can do.
Yeah.
So how's that for you? So again, to be able to say that you're the first GB female Iranian purple belt instructor.
Well, it makes me feel very proud,
Mhm,
extremely proud, and I can only thank my parents really for
mhm,
taking us out of Iran early in the 80s to take us to Sweden and give
mhm.
us that. So there's a lot of females in Iran that don't have these opportunities. So when I was there last Christmas, I had my first ever seminar and the first female seminar in Iran as well,
Yeah,
which a lot of people kind of heard of. And in Iran, I had no idea you need to have the permission of the government
yeah,
and that you have to like have a license and everything. So I just wanted to, I didn't even take money for it. It was free. I should
yeah,
have called it workshop because that was the definition. Seriously, they
yeah,
said
yeah,
when it's a seminar, people like pay for it. I'm like, but I'm not paying. I'm doing this for free.
yeah.
But it was, I had my own family members there. And
Mhm,
my aunt, that is, I think she's 60 something, she was the superstar in that.
yeah,
And they then saw, like, oh my God, it works. And this is
mhm,
what I love. When you show someone the technique and they get it, and then I put strength and I'm like, do it. And they still manage to get out of it. That penny, when it drops,
yeah,
it's just, oh, just like I just live for that.
yeah.
And I wanted to go back, but then it was like kind of like politically a bit like I became. They asked me, people that organized it, to be a little bit low key because I wanted to post a video of the
Yeah,
seminar and pictures, but they said please don't
yeah,
because the owner of the gym was getting a lot of issues. And I said, listen, if they fine you anything, I'll pay it.
yeah,
Uh, but like, tell them I didn't get anything for it. I did it all for free.
yeah, yeah.
So for me, this like for me to be able to do that was amazing. And then I was planning to go there and actually start training Iranian girls so that then they could become a blue belt, so they
Mhm,
get certified through Gracie Barra.
yeah,
And Professor Salvo said like he would definitely come to Iran to kind of like give the belts and stuff. And but then I gotta say, then Corona, so everything is kind of like pushed to like a bit later. Not that
yeah.
it's never gonna happen, but a bit later.
So definitely it's going to happen. It's definitely going to happen. I mean, I remember reading a story about, and again, it was an anonymous story about a female jiu-jitsu fighter in Iran back in, I think this was about 2014, 2015. So she was, I think she was a purple belt, or whatever belt she was at the time, and she had to train in secret. So they weren't allowed. You weren't allowed to go out and just train at a GB or an BJJ, checkmat or whatever. It had to be done in secret. Males were allowed to train, no problem at all, but females just couldn't do that at all. So
because the gyms are not mixed.
Yeah.
So like even if you would go to a normal gym, there are certain times for just women and there's certain times for men.
Yeah.
And they do have, like, they call it like underground gyms where the men and the women. But that's why I wanted to be like, because there's nobody at my level in Iran that would like be able to say like, well, I want to have, and once if I open that gym, it will be in my dad's name. So anything political or anything that does, it will be faced with him, not me. I'm employed by him, but I'm running it. And it's just like that. Like, you know, I want to, when I was in Iran, my mom just said, Ellie, be careful. I said, Mom, for what?
Yeah.
She's just like, what if someone attacks you? I'm like, well, I hope they do. I hope teach them a lesson. And then you see someone with 2 broken arms and you'll be like, Ellie. And she's just like, oh yeah, you're right. So, for me, it's like, because I've used it in London. Like I got attacked 2-3 years ago. So I know that it works. I know that, but it has to be shown in a way where you would be attacked on the street. Like we can talk about this later, but like, I would say, to answer your question, I'm absolutely honored. I hope I can go back there and continue this dream that I have, and to be the first one in the Middle East to do that. But I want to make the women work for themselves, have their own gyms. And I think with Gracie Barra, it's a great business for anyone that loves jiu-jitsu and wants to run a gym. They have everything. It's like on a platter for you. You know, when they do this, their courses and you get certified, people are like, oh, well, why do we have to do it every year? It's because they perfected each time. So
and Gracie Barra is good. I mean, Gracie Barra doesn't just show you how to coach, but also shows you how to set up a business and keep a business running, the marketing side of things, and everything else that comes with that. So it's almost the same as going to college or university and getting a degree in business. Do jiu-jitsu and do something you love and get the qualification that way.
Correct. Before I did that ICPC course, I was just like, oh man, just like everyone else. They're all about money, they're all about, and it depends about who's running it and who is selling it to you. And I would, you know, say some people, I would say like more on the Brazilian side, because they don't come from very good financial backgrounds, it is very important for them financially, and because their English isn't that very good, they don't know how to communicate. So it does come across that all they want is just money. Whereas it is a very difficult job because you're using your own body to show someone. So they're beating you right, left, and center, and then you're getting paid for it. So it's not like a PT session where I stand there and tell you to do 10 squats. I do it and then you follow me. So it is a very, very hard work. And it is an intellectual property. So it is something that you have so much knowledge, but you really don't want it to just give it to everyone because you don't know if they're going to stay. So I see all those now. But once I did that ICPC course and I saw the structure and then I read the Carlos Gracie Jr. message, I was like, this is what they want to convey. This is what the message is. And I fell in love with it. I didn't care who was saying what. I'd done the course myself. I knew all the rules. I knew all that. Like, it was just, like, it's beautiful. Absolutely beautiful, the message that he has. And I agree with him fully.
Definitely. And then Katie, there's just obviously a few laughing faces because obviously the comment I made about are going to choke Andy. Andy, who's my friend, Katie's partner, he says, total respect for you, Ellie. Keep up the good work. And no, Stoom, my partner's not at the level to catch me with a lapel choke yet. One day, hopefully. Now, what he's talking about, because Katie being a two-time white belt and him being a purple belt, so he's kind of flexing his muscles a little bit. So,
But Andy
so
obviously knows that he's going to let Katie do this over and over 100 times, 200 times, so she becomes an expert.
yes,
So,
yes. And then I have Fredson Marquez. You are a great instructor. What are the benefits that Jiu-Jitsu can provide women?
oh, Fredson. Fredson, he's a very, very, very special man. Him and his wife and two beautiful kids. Him and his wife are both blue belts. I'm so proud of them. And, and I miss them dearly.
Mhm.
And thank you for the compliment, Fredson. Anyway, what are the benefits that Jiu-Jitsu can provide for women? Well, confidence,
Mhm.
feeling empowered, feeling that we can do it. And I would say Fredson's wife is a
Mhm.
great example of that. First, Fredson brought his beautiful daughter because she was very quiet and she was like, and they wanted her to kind of like come out of her shell a little bit.
Yeah.
And I remember sitting in the reception and I was just like, well, why don't you do it? She's just like me. And I think I don't remember if Fredson started at the same time or if it was his wife that started, but I remember training with the women. And I think with anyone that brings in women to the gym, have the female that is a blue belt or that is a purple belt, doesn't have to be black belt,
Yeah.
for them to train with the women for about 2-3 months. And I'll tell you why. And don't let them spar at the end, which
Mhm.
normally Gracie Barra would do.
Yeah.
And the reason for that is that we women, we want to know a step ahead. So whenever I would teach a technique to a woman, I would add few more details because they
Mhm.
could handle it. Where the men is just like 1, 2, 3, Where the
Yeah.
women is just like, no, but your hip needs to go here, your foot like to be. And they do it. And for women, they feel men wrestle, right? They do
Yeah.
rugby. So you used to that close contact. Women aren't. So once even like when it's someone like me that will start do sparring with them, it's extremely intimidating.
Yeah.
And that's why it's so important to learn jujitsu, to learn to become comfortable in an uncomfortable position.
Mhm.
Why? When you are being attacked by someone, that's exactly the same feeling you're gonna have. Like,
Yeah.
what the hell is going on? Whereas what we want is for them to not get that feeling the first 2-3 months.
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
what I did with my girls was that they would just do the moves on me first. So because I wanted to make sure that they're not hurting each other.
Yeah.
And also that they're doing the technique, and I wanted them to excel faster than what I had. Like the girls that are blue belt now, they're like at my level because it took such a long time for me
Yeah.
to get to that stage.
Mhm.
So for women, I think you need to have like there are a lot of women that have kids. They don't want to compete. They shouldn't have to compete, but they should have that fight in them. And I remember Fredson's wife, the first couple of times she was nice, she was kind, and then boy did she become a badass. She was giving me a hard time, and I'm like, oh, I love it. And that's what I always say. I want my students to become 100 times better than me. So they give me a hard time, and for me, that's just like, oh, I just put another badass out there.
Nice, nice. And then, what about you then? So, what struggles have you come up against with? Because obviously you've been in the game now for about 6 years. So what kind of struggles have you faced in that 6 years?
Struggles within the jiu-jitsu world,
Yeah,
or
just as you in general, being a female coming into jiu-jitsu, because jiu-jitsu, like a lot of combat sports, is very, very heavily male dominated. Okay, so but obviously as a female coming into the sport, what kind of struggles did you face on your way up through that 6 years?
well, I was a bit spoiled, I have to say, because I did have a extremely brilliant professor.
Mhm.
There's nothing that can be taken away by Enrique Santana, that he is a brilliant professor. Like hands down, he loves what he does. And once you see him sparring with kids, you'll see how much that man loves jiu-jitsu.
Yeah.
But it's, for me, so I was a bit spoiled because, you know, I had that professor's kind of protection.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I didn't have those. It was only like kind of like him himself that didn't really believe that women should be trained in a different way until he sparred with that black belt, where he then realized, well, like, okay.
Yeah.
But in that sense, I didn't have difficulties. It was only after, when I was no longer part of that gym, where I was so disappointed on how I was treated. And if I was a man, that would have never happened. I would have been, you know, welcomed with open arms and, you know, talked about the girl, or yeah, she was a bitch or whatever. Like,
Yeah.
But the girl, and I know so many girls that have had the same scenario, the same treatment as me, and where they were like, oh, Ellie, once things calm down, then we can talk about it.
Yeah.
Well, I was just like, if I'm wearing that purple belt, I've earned that.
Yeah.
So that means that if I come on that mat, if I then disrespect anyone, if I say something out of the, you know, that isn't appropriate, they kick me out, and I will say, yeah, I deserve that. But give me that chance. Don't just like shut the doors and be like, oh, because I know this person and because we respect each other, that, you know, you shouldn't come, you know, because I don't want to get involved. And then I was just like, and then I started questioning my own Gracie Barra love that I had. Hang on a minute. Isn't Gracie Barra for everyone? So I was so upset. I was so disappointed. I was more heartbroken by that than the breakup of my relationship, because that I was happy with. But then I had the I would say another angel that came, which was Professor Salvo and Professor Bradley Steamer. I was just like, no, Ellie, you know, you can come and train, but Gracie Barra Bath was like 2.5 hours drive.
Yeah.
Birmingham, same way. I'm in Richmond, so it still wasn't. But the fact that, you know, that was, they had my back because they knew that I wanted to open a gym in Iran. They said, we'll be there, we'll come for you. Yeah. Then, you know, a lot of things like this happened. They were still messaging me, and, you know, that to me was just like, oh yeah, they were really family.
Yeah.
So that, in that sense, I would, you know, say that there are just certain ones, and I think initially that's why I just wanted women that I would teach, so that they never ever have to go through what I did. First of all,
yeah,
that's why I kind of think maybe like the women can have the choice to go and be in a mixed class. There's a lot of dating going on within, you know, students and professors and stuff like that. And to be honest, one of the reasons why I want to just have females only and kids is because I don't want the hassle of that.
Yeah.
You know, I don't think it's anything worse than someone you with start dating your student and you've been got her on the mat and start, you know, so it's, and that was a huge thing, but did anyone say anything about that? No.
Yeah.
Anyway, as a 39-year-old, purple belt, 3 stripes, you cannot come. So I'm like, you are literally, and when I said, oh, I've been invited by Roger Gracie, you know, at least it's still, you know, the Gracie family, I was just like, oh, congratulations, well, at least you won't stop. I was expecting him to say, well, look, if he accepts you, you can still come. So I would say that is like the biggest, in my experience, where I have been treated, well, in hindsight, actually very beautifully because of everyone else, but where I just felt the jiu-jitsu community just literally, and I felt very lonely because all of my students were also told not to contact me, not to be, you know, they had to choose loyalty. And if they would be called traitors by the professor. There was a lot of ugliness, and I would put my hands up. I am not an innocent. I'm Persian. I'm fiery. I'm temperamental. You know, you be fair to me. You do it in a respectful way.
Yeah.
you know, I'll do the same. But
Mhm.
if you go and do stuff like that and you expect me to sit there and be like, oh, then you picked the wrong girl, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
So, and everyone, actually, no, not everyone, but a lot of people wanted me to keep quiet
Mhm. Mhm.
about a lot of things. And I was just like, why? So many girls I've heard have gone exactly through the same thing. Nothing is changed.
Mhm.
And it's like a lot more, now that there's a lot more female black belts are coming, then you feel like that safety if you go to a gym that like Professor Salvo has and Professor Victor has in Nottingham.
Yeah.
So with Professor Mills, I think those will have a very different aura to it.
Mhm.
But it's, you know, it was just like, be quiet, don't rock the boat. It will only make things worse for yourself. And I was like, worse than this?
Yeah.
Like, okay, you can't get any worse than this. No, I'm not.
Yeah.
Even if it means that I'm not gonna be invited to any other gym again, nothing. I have enough tools in my bag where I can, when I get attacked, I can defend myself for the rest of my life. And with the tools I've got, I will share with every single woman that is happy to learn. I'll do it. It's not the money for me, it's the hobby, and I want to share that knowledge. If one woman uses the skills I've taught them by defending themselves, oh, I can die a happy woman today.
Yeah.
So, you know, it's for me, it's worth the risk, but I think
Mhm.
it should be definitely talked about. And I'm not saying that all gyms are like this, but I've had that experience, unfortunately.
Yeah, definitely. And there's a Facebook page, obviously, on the back of that. I mean, there's a Facebook page called Roll the Same, which talks about inequality in jiu-jitsu and I don't think it's maybe suited just to jiu-jitsu. I think it's combat sports in general. I could be wrong.
Yeah.
But Roll the Same, I mean, if anybody's got any kind of anything they need to talk to anybody about. Obviously, if they can't speak to maybe coaches, professors, or whatever, there's other places that they can reach out to and speak to people. So if anybody's going through anything, then Roll
And
the
reach out
Same.
to me. I'm more than happy to, you know, help you out and guide you to where you can go. And, you know, it's, I've been through it. And I think women should be helping each other, empowering each other, not be against each other,
Yeah,
not like, you know, have that like rivalry. No, it's the opposite. We need to have each other's backs.
yeah,
So if anyone wants, please get in touch. Everyone that has messaged me knows that I will message them. If they're a bit forward and ask me out, I'm very polite, but I say I'm taken, thank you. but I would love to have, you know, obviously more females to reach out
yeah,
and I would
yeah.
love to like start, you know, traveling again and see people. I'm immune to it now, so I'm the safest person to be with.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. And it's funny how you mentioned that about Browley or Steema and so on. I mean, when I left GB, I remember I left GB, not under same circumstances, but when I left GB, I had a falling out with my professor. Okay, and then off the back of that, obviously I decided, look, it was best for me and my journey to move on. Unfortunately, we didn't have a GB gym anywhere else in Scotland at the time. I think there was only one gym, which was Darren Clark's. And from where Darren Clark trains to where I live, it's about 2 hours drive there and about 2 hours back. So you had to then weigh up, is it worth it driving 4 hours?
Yeah.
So I moved to obviously Marcus Nardini, and the amount of messages that I got from people all over, from Gracie Barra, I got a message from Professor Draculino. He messaged me saying, "Look, what's happening?" A message from a few guys in California, from training partners I've had throughout the world, just messaging asking if I was okay.
Great.
Once obviously I explained the situation to them, they were like, "Do you know what? You're still Gracie Barra. You still are Gracie Barra. No
Yeah.
matter where you train, you're still Gracie Barra, and one day you might come back." So, which is it's true. I mean, one day I might go back. I'd say I'm very comfortable where I train now. But yeah, I mean, if maybe one day it might happen, maybe not. So, but as I say, Gracie Barra still got a place in my heart. So,
Yeah.
and
Nice.
actually, it's funny you mentioned that about Braulio. I mean, there's all sorts of even top guys that will reach out to you, and you'll get the help and things like that from people, even if it's not your own gym. So
That's what I mean. Like it's such a big world, but and that's also what I noticed with with posting my COVID video,
Yeah.
so many people reached out. And that was when I was at my loneliest.
Yeah.
Like I was at the lowest of the lowest. And
Mm-hmm.
so many people reached out. I was like bombarded with so much love and so much like energy. Where I'm just like, wow, I'm like so honored and blessed and grateful. And a
Yeah.
lot of people say, oh, but you have so many people on your Facebook. I'm like, yeah, but those people are in that community. And like it's so true that
Mm-hmm.
once you do jiu-jitsu, you become part of that
Yeah.
community. And I think anyone that does jiu-jitsu becomes part of your family. And I think the first question, like, so what belt are you?
That's true. You don't know them by second name, but I can tell you what belt you are. So
Exactly, how many stripes? Exactly. Which is the best. But yeah, it's like I have like for me was exactly the same situation as yours, but either I will drive
mm-hmm.
somewhere really far or join another gym.
Mm-hmm.
But I was so like hardcore
Yeah.
Gracie Barra. Wow, just like even if I have a small little dojo,
Mm-hmm.
I'll open
Mm-hmm.
my own gym.
Yeah.
It's just going to be for women. So I'm not competing with anyone. I'm
Yeah.
not taking any students from anyone. And it's just supposed to be self-defense because for my gym, I want it to be mothers to come, bring
Yeah.
their kids. I want to have like someone that as a like a teacher's assistant to teach, like help the kids with their um, like homework and stuff like that, but also then bring the kids when they grow up enough to be able to also participate.
Yeah.
But the
Yeah.
moms to do that, it's because when I was attacked 3 years ago,
Mm-hmm.
one punch, a slap, we
Mm-hmm.
all women are gonna be on our backs.
Yeah. Yeah.
And when that happened to me, the guy's hand was here about to unzip and do his stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't panic.
Yeah.
So all I could see, like, well, okay, my legs are free. He's not saying anything. So triangle.
Mm-hmm.
When I closed the triangle, obviously I had his arm. Before he about to sleep, I broke one elbow with the arm bar.
Mm-hmm.
Made him sleep, did arm bar and broke the other one. So he can't do rank or do anything for a good 12 months. Sat behind him, rear naked choke.
Yeah.
I called the police and ambulance, and now he's in jail.
Mm-hmm.
And he'd done this to 4 other women before me.
Yeah.
So that for me was, I had only done jiu-jitsu for like 4 years.
Yeah.
But it was in that bomber, like boom. I woke up, I didn't scream. But the first time I got attacked in 2001,
mm-hmm.
I was a victim. This time,
yeah.
and the police officer were like, so who attacked who here? I was like, there's a camera over there. I have a big shiner and my bruises in my underwear right there. But he was just like, and that's when they also wanted me to kind of like go and train their female police officers.
Yeah.
They don't have weapons and stuff. So that's also something that I have kind of like been asked to with the women, not the men again, with the females. Maybe I sound like a feminist. I'm not. I love men. I think men are just absolutely wonderful. Most of you are so lovely and to train with and stuff, but there's not enough women that do jiu-jitsu. So if I can just give them a safe haven to come, try it out. All I say is give me one session. If you don't like it, I'll never bother you again. But every time they get hooked. So
definitely.
That's my dream.
And then what would your advice be then for any woman that maybe wants to get into jiu-jitsu but is, I don't know, scared because of the training or, as you mentioned, training with males or training in different environments and stuff? Because anybody that comes in, I mean, even now when I speak to people and you talk about doing jiu-jitsu, their concept of jiu-jitsu is completely different to what we actually do. Because obviously you get the karate moves, you get, I mean, they think of an MMA gym, is that UFC?
Yes.
So what would your advice be then to a woman that's thinking about getting into jiu-jitsu?
Few things. Do your homework.
Mm-hmm.
Find out through social media if that gym has any female students.
Yeah.
And preferably if they have like in a higher belt than a white belt, I would say, because then they've been there long enough. And back in the days, only 10% of like any white belt that would start would become a blue belt. Now that number is a lot more higher, especially through Gracie Barra. But I would say do your homework, contact them. make sure that the first time you do it is just you and that person as an induction class.
Yeah.
Because then it's not intimidating. You don't see everybody else. Like the first time I saw it, I was just like, these people gay. You're like, why they like, scrapping in different positions? And it smelled like
Yeah.
the first thing
Yeah.
I do when I go to a gym, I'm like, is it clean? I am
Yeah.
gonna like, because there's nothing worse than a gym where you go and it's just men and sweaty stuff. So A, does it have a female changing room?
Yeah.
B, is it clean? Does it smell like, because again, remember my notes. Speak to that female, do it privately, speak to them a little bit.
Yeah.
If there's any higher belts that you follow or something, contact them. I think the best is out of recommendation.
Yeah.
Because, I have recommended a lot to Professor Joanna, like, because she's in London and I love her. So anyone that wants to, and they're not close to me, I'm like, contact her.
Yeah.
So, and, and then also like any particular gym, which I think Gracie Barra Fulham, they have like a lot of females as well, which I think is really great. And then you have Gracie Barra Oval. And so I think reach out to the women. We would love to get you on board.
Yeah.
And just don't be afraid. I think it's something that every woman owe it to themselves. We spend so much money on our nails, makeup, hair.
Yeah.
But investing in training in jiu-jitsu is something that is a must.
Yeah.
You need to teach your daughter, your niece, or whatever, that you take responsibility to defend yourself.
Yeah.
You still be feminine, still be like, it's not going to take the beauty of a man away. I'd rather be with someone than be by myself. But he's not always going to be there, is he?
Yeah.
And yes, he might be the black belt and I don't know anything, but if he's not there to protect me, I'm still going to get hurt, God forbid worse. So it's something like, don't do it for the competition. If you're not into that, don't do that. Make sure that you tell them, because I know for a fact there's so many self-defense techniques that we don't do, even through Gracie Barra, that is a stand-up. If someone grabs your hair and stuff like that. And with women, you have to do it constantly. But then we have the 16 programs, so you have to go through it. I sometimes feel like, well, really? Am I going to do De La Hiva when I'm being attacked? It's the basics, the fundamentals, the guard, to be able to hold someone in side control. Do you need to use that lapel, that color? If someone puts their hand here, I didn't allow you to do that. How do you do that without breaking someone's wrist? But if they continue, you can break it, know? Yeah. So I would say every woman should do it, and I think we should talk more about it. And if anyone wants, I can even right now with COVID, it's so beautiful. You can do it online as long as you have somebody, a partner there to help you. Better it is. But it's possible. It doesn't even have to be in a gym, in my opinion.
Definitely. And then what's next for you then? So what are we going to see you doing next?
Me doing next, it's interesting. I have a lot of different things up in the air that I'm kind of like, I'm very, very, very excited, very happy. Like, I feel like I've been cleansed when I had the coronavirus, and there's so many different opportunities here for me in terms of working with the police. What's it called? Police force?
Yeah. It'll be the Metropolitan, the London police. Is it London based? Is that what you're talking about? London based police?
Yes, it's that, but also different countries as well.
Yeah.
So it's not just, I guess it helps having the face. It opens outdoors. But also because I'm so vocal. Apparently this is something that a lot of people say. And I literally just went to the office and to the headquarters. I'm like, would this be of an interest? And the captain got it. And then that's how the ball rolls. Like, I'm not, and I think with doing jiu-jitsu, I'm a lot more like, more savvy. Like, it's more like chessing, even in my life, on how I do things. So it's that. It's also the possibility to opening something on my own. So right now, it's a very, very bright future. Like, COVID in 2020 has been a very, very interesting, but it's definitely ending on a high.
Yeah, definitely.
So,
That's it. I'm sure whatever you do, I mean, everything that, especially everything you've been through in the last 12 months, I mean, that would have knocked anybody down. Okay, but then obviously you've came back. You're positive. You're very, very positive. Anybody that's got Ellie on Facebook or doesn't have Ellie on Facebook, definitely have a look, because as I said, every day, every post is always a positive post. So, so it's obviously a pleasure to have somebody like you in the jiu-jitsu community. So
thank you so much. It's an honor, like, to have me. I can't even put it into words. When you asked me, I was like to my sister, I'm like, oh, and I was so honored. So I don't know how to show my appreciation. I just hope one day we'll see each other face to face.
Yeah,
we'll have a nice bar on that mat.
Yeah, listen, if you're ever in Glasgow, if you ever find yourself in Scotland, then drop me a message, and then I said we can get some training. Obviously, lockdown permitted, because obviously we're still in a lockdown just now. But yeah, if you ever find yourself in Scotland, just give me a shout, Ellie.
Perfect. All right. Likewise. Thank you so much for everyone and the questions, and for your time. And it's not the last of me. So
no, definitely not. Listen, it's been an honor, and we will speak to you soon then, Ellie. Okay.
Likewise. Thank you.
Thank you. Take care.
Bye, guys.